Hello and welcome back. Today we're looking at the Ekaterina boss in Tower of Arrogance on hard mode, specifically while she has the recovery buff, which will heal her for 60% of her HP lost every time she takes a turn. Also at this point we have the drain life effect, which will also give her 180% leech. To do this, I have already done a video for Ekaterina without the recovery buff, and I did use Charlotte in that because this boss does heal herself and she does get healed by the ponies. However, this team here, which I used for the other video, isn't quite as effective on this boss this time round because we need to prioritise killing the ponies so they definitely don't take off that heal block buff from Charlotte. Debuff from Charlotte. So to do this, instead of Ammon and instead of Thea, we're going to use AoE damages. You can use anyone that is not fire element. You could use Esperanza, but because this is supposed to be a free-to-play guide, we're going to use the crafted Maria. Is it Maria or Mary? Sorry, Mary. And a natural 4-star. Hopefully Media is a reasonably popular choice, so maybe Media. I have also beaten this boss using double heal blockers and one AoE, so you could have Mary, Charlotte, and instead of Media you could have Eblis. That definitely works. I have tested it and it does work, just to make sure that that heal block stays on the boss. But anyway, it works with this team, so let's go ahead and get into the fight, and I'll talk about everyone later and some possible other alternative heroes. Right, let's get to it. Okay then, so to start with, we're going to have Lakshmi do a defense buff on everyone. Then we're going to move Charlotte into position and get her debuffs down if we can. We did get a heal block there. The important thing here is not to get Lakshmi in the way so that you can't get all your AoEs around the boss at range. As you can see, Media's going to have nowhere to go, but we're just going to get her in position anyway. Also on Mary, on your first turn, don't use her AoE, use her second skill, and that'll be fine. If Charlotte didn't land a heal block, you could use Lakshmi now, but I'm just going to put it on Maria for an extra attack. Now the boss is going to summon ponies. On the boss's next turn she'll do a speed buff, and then on her third turn she will attack someone, which is when we want to use Freya if we can. Time to use our AoE and get these ponies killed. If we hit this one, will it still be in range? Yeah, it will still be in range, so we can do that, and there we go, 2 ponies will die. Lovely. Bit more damage on the boss. As you can see, the boss's health is chunking down quite nicely just from normal attacks without continuous damage. I could defense buff everyone here, but the boss is not going to attack on its next turn. It's going to speed buff, so we might as well just get a bit more damage down. Let's give Mary another turn. Looks like this is Freya's last turn before the boss's turn, so it is time to... Oh no, because we don't have... the boss still hasn't taken that turn to do the speed debuff. Can we get a block buffs? No block buffs. The boss's health is going down heavily, but we no longer have a heal block, which could be an issue. The boss is going to attack on its next turn, so now is the time to do invincibility. Unfortunately, because of bad speed tuning, these two won't maintain invincibility, so the best thing to do is try and get Lakshmi out of range of the boss so that the boss attacks Freya. And I've been unlucky here and speed buffed the team, so now the turns have gone totally out the window, so the boss could now attack Media. She could attack Lakshmi and she attacked Media, but it's not a big deal because look how much health the boss has got left. Goodbye. Okay then, let's look at our heroes in a bit more depth. As I said, you are very free to use any 2-tile AoE damager. Doesn't even have to be 2 tile. You could use Esperanza. Titana's here. Uriel is usable. Apollon's usable. Mary, obviously. Medea. Esperanza. You could even use Ingwe because he does have that heal block. And that heal block, actually, he'll get extra turns because there's so many ponies to hit. The more targets his A2 hits, the more it reduces the cooldown of that move. So if you're hitting 3 targets, the cooldown is only going to be 2 turns. So he's totally viable for this fight. Obviously not free to play though. Yeah, anyone but fire, unfortunately. You can use Lucifer as well if you've got him leveled up a bit stronger. His A3 is a decent AoE. But I think you get the idea. Anyone that can do splash damage that will kill those ponies. So in this fight I used Medea. She is fully skilled up. Her A2 is the main AoE, but she also does do splash damage, cleave damage on her A1. The special thing about Medea is that she always has elemental advantage, so she's always going to hit the most damage she can. Mine isn't runed particularly well because although I used her very early on, I don't use her quite so much anymore. So I think I swapped out runes and just left her in quite poor runes. But as you can see, her speed isn't faster than Freya, so that's an issue. But she's still got reasonable crit rate and crit damage. Her attack's a little bit low as well. So yeah, a bit more speed would be good on her. Let's have a look at her runes. I probably don't have a speed rune on her here. So if I had a speed rune on here, that would definitely help the situation for this fight. But just rune her as you would any damager, but try and make her faster than Freya. It's as simple as that, really. And then we had Mary, a crafted 5-star. Most people would advise you to craft Hildegard first. I hardly ever use Hildegard, if I'm honest. I only use her in arena defense with stun runes on, whereas Mary is a very strong AoE damager once skilled up and runed up. Mine isn't skilled up yet. I have other priorities. I don't particularly need her personally, but she's very good indeed. And she is a buff stripper as well. But it's her A3 that is the strong AoE damager, so that's why we're using her. For runes, I've got her in standard damage runes, just a 2 set that gave me what I needed for the attack rate on there, and speed enough to keep up with everyone. Once again, she is slower than Freya, so if you want her to be invincible, she would need to be faster. However, on this boss, because of element, she has elemental advantage. It is highly unlikely that she will be targeted by the boss or the ponies unless they have no other choice. So it's fairly safe for Mary to be slower on this fight. And then we had good old Freya as our speed leader. We're using her invincibility to try and survive when the boss takes its 3rd turn, and we also have an AoE dot. I have mine runed for stun, and that is very useful on this fight because you can stun the ponies, but not essential. But this is what you're aiming for with Freya anyway. In the long run, this is what you're aiming for with Freya, for use in PvP and in like Tower of Arrogance, intermediary floors, stunning the adds and all that sort of thing. So having her in Earthquake should be a goal for your account if you don't already have it. And then we had Charlotte as our heal debuffer, heal breaker, heal blocker, which comes from her Awoken skill, which passively adds that ability to all of her moves. She also has a slow and a defense break, which is very handy on this boss because we're not using dots on this occasion to kill the boss, so additional damage through armor broken is very good. She also has a block buffs, and this boss does buff attack power and can one-shot anyone on your team quite easily. She is a bit of a glass cannon though. She hasn't got that much health. She just hits very hard and she gets healed a lot, so that's the big issue with her. And then this A1 does more damage when they have more debuffs. We don't care, we're just using A1 because the passive's still on it, so she can still put a heal block on there. Rune wise, she'll be an accuracy, speed and tankiness. as any good support unit should be. And that's all there is to say about Charlotte. She's probably going to be your first craft. She's very easy to craft. I've crafted 2 of her just for the quest because I'd already crafted one. And it didn't take very long at all for me to craft a second one, so not a big deal at all. And then finally, let's talk about other heal blockers while we're at it. Eblis is a natural 4-star. I've only recently started using her since this round of Tower of Arrogance Hard mode has this recovery buff, because her A1 has at base a 30% chance to heal block for 2 turns. It's the 2 turns that's important, and then with 1 skill up it goes up swiftly to 45% and all the way up to 60% if you've got the skill ups for her. The rest of her skill set is useful in other places. She is an assassin with this very potent A3. If you're gonna rune her for damage and use her assassinate, this will always crit, so you just get over 300% crit damage on her and she's a monster. At the start of her turn, just like Raja, she puts a defense break on the enemy with the lowest HP, so that's also a very useful ability there from her awakening, a passive. So she's a very good alternative, and as I said at the start, I have done this fight using Mary, Charlotte and Eblis with no second AoE damager, just to make sure that heal block stays on the boss, and I had absolutely no trouble killing the boss at all. It was fine. The only other... there's a couple of heal... I already talked about Ingwe. Ingwe's A2 has a heal block on it, and it's a very large area of effect, so it's likely to hit all the ponies, and every enemy that it hits does reduce its cooldown. It starts off on a 5-turn cooldown, which makes him a pretty rubbish heal blocker. However, if you're hitting 3 targets or 4 targets, he's going to have it almost straight away to do again. Because it's a 2-turn, you're going to be able to maintain it as long as there are ponies alive. However, if there are ponies alive, they can take the debuff off the boss, so we don't want ponies alive. But Ingwe is totally a good idea for this boss if you have him. Totally viable. Especially as he does AoE damage as well. Jacko is fantastic for this boss. Not particularly free to play though, because she is a light dark. However, everyone will get 5 light dark summons just by doing the guild raids. Chances are you're going to have a Jacko. Hopefully, fingers crossed. If you've got her, fantastic. Eventually you will get her. I didn't get her for quite a while, but she is just a nat 4. She's a light dark. But her passive means that her skill 2, once skilled up, means that each hit, or even at level 1, it has a chance to apply one of these debuffs, a 35% chance for each of these debuffs. It could land all 3 of these. It's a 35% chance for each one, which goes up. It starts at 1 turn, and then with skill ups it goes all the way up to 3 turns. So if she lands it just once, fantastic. Another one of her abilities is that she gets extra action opportunities, so this 35% soon goes up to a 70% because she gets 2 turns. So really, really awesome, and it helps that she hits like an absolute truck as well. She is a sniper, she hits very hard, and you should rune her that way as well to do a lot of damage, not neglecting the accuracy though. Don't neglect the accuracy if you can. If you can get accuracy on there, get it on there. Definitely get speed on there so you can take as many turns as possible, and then the rest of it, just try and get a nuking if you can. She has an extraordinarily long range as well, with 3 tile range. Jacko is fantastic, can totally be used in this team alongside an AoE damager. Honourable mentions: you can tank with Ammon, but it's a waste of a slot on this fight. No real need for it. All we're going to do is wait for the boss to take its 3rd turn and use Freya to shield up to protect you, and you're going to be fine. Laxmi. Laxmi's in here, isn't she? 6 or 7 weeks of your guild shop, and you can buy enough shards to summon Lakshmi, and you should do, you absolutely should do, and you should 6-star her, and you should throw all the skill ups at her until she has all of her cooldowns and effects maxed out, and then you don't have to put any more on her. What is special about her is that every turn she heals everyone depending on how many buffs she has on herself, starting at 6%, going up to 18, not 18, up to 24% when you have 3 buffs. So really, really good. Is it 24? It feels like 24. It might just be 18 from 3 buffs, but she seems to heal more than this says anyway. Her A2 not only defense buffs everyone around her, but also cleanses them, so that is incredibly strong. Be careful putting Lakshmi next to Thea, because if you cleanse Thea, she no longer has any debuffs to transfer, but that's not too much of an issue on this boss. And then our A1 has a knockback and a speed debuff. You need to be a bit careful with this A1, you can't just use it willy-nilly on this boss, because you might knock the boss out of range of your Charlotte, so that's, and your AoE, so it's a big deal. Don't just start using her A1, it's better just to skip a turn, because she'll still do her heal. And our A3 gives someone an extra turn, so for example, if Charlotte doesn't land her heal block, give Charlotte an extra turn, get that heal block down. Lakshmi is pretty vital to this tactic, unfortunately. She is absolutely free to play, you just need a bit of time playing the game. And Tower of Arrogance Hard mode isn't for new players anyway, so you know, this is something you should be doing on your second month of the game, really. That's what it's designed for. Anyway, I think that is everyone. I've talked about, you know, the fact that you just need AoEs, just don't use fire, because the boss will target the fire person. The team we're using, the boss will always target elemental equals. So Lakshmi, Elbliss, Freya are all candidates to be targeted, so try and have those people surrounding Freya when she uses her invincibility. Anyway, good luck, and I'll see you in game.